In this tutorial, I'm going to introduce you to the basics of rigging a character in Maya. First, I'm going to create a skeleton and then, as we have seen in the previous tutorials, create IK handles so that we can animate the joints. I'm going to begin by setting up one of the legs. So let's first go into the side view. I'm going to press the spacebar that will split the window into 4 views, and then I'm going to hover the mouse over the side view and then press the spacebar again. Then I'm going to go under the rigging tab and then select the joint tool. Then start with the hip joint, create the knee, and then the ankle. And this is what the chain looks like. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start setting up the spine joint chain. With the spine joint chain, I'm not going to start from the top, rather I'm going to start from the bottom so that the base of the spine becomes the root of the spine. I'm going to click once and then go up and set up a simple spine. Anytime you rig, you want to make sure that the joints that you create are in the right location. So you want to view it from the perspective in the perspective window as well as in the orthographic views. So here you can see that the joint is sitting on top of the leg joint, or it's aligned with the leg joint. We want the spine to be in the middle because that forms the center of the body. So I'm going to move the spine toward the side and slightly upward. So now that we have the leg joint and the spine joint, you want to establish a relationship, a parent-child relationship between the spine and the leg so that the root of the spine becomes the parent of the hip joint. To do that, we have to first select the hip joint because that's going to be the child. Then we select the parent, which is the root, the spine root, and then hit P. And that will create a new joint that connects the two joint chains. Now, if you select the root joint, the spine root, it will select the spine as well as the leg because the spine root is the root of the entire skeleton. So I'm going to move this to the side just a little. Now we set up one of the arms. So let's go to the front view and I'm going to set the arm somewhere in this area near the collarbone. I'm going to click once for the shoulder, one for the elbow, one for the wrist, and then from the top view I'm going to make sure that there is a slight bend in the elbow, that the elbow is bent. As what we have done before, we want to make sure that the arm is in the right location. So I'm going to move it forward, maybe move it down a little, and then the next step is to create or establish a relationship between the arm and the spine, where the arm is the child of the spine. So I'm going to select the arm root and then one of the joints down the middle and then hit P, and that will create another joint as what we have done before and connect the arm to the spine. So now what we do is that we take one half of this rig and we mirror it so that we won't have to repeat the same actions over and over again. So to mirror the arm, what we do is we don't select the spine, we select the arm root, right? And we go to skeleton and mirror joints. From here you have to select the appropriate set of axes to mirror it along. I'm going to select Y, Z and then hit mirror, and that will create another arm and flip it around. I'm going to do the same thing with the leg, and if you want to repeat the same action again, the shortcut for that in Maya is G. So if you hit G, it should repeat the same action. Okay, so we have a basic skeleton with legs and arms, and since it's a simple intro to character rigging. I'm not going to create fingers or hands or feet. I'm just going to go with a simple setup here. So now what we do is we create IKs for each of these joints so that we'll be able to animate the joints. To create IKs, go to the third option under the rigging tab, double click on it and make sure that in the options window you select the rotate plane solver. You don't want single chain solver, you want a rotate plane solver. With that selected, go to the hip joint, click on the root joint and then on the ankle. If you want to exit the tool, the shortcut key for that is Q, Q as in queen. So I'm going to exit the tool, go back, and then do the same thing for the other leg. I'm going to this. Now let's go and set up IKs for the arms as well. So here I'm going to click on the shoulder root and then on the wrist and then shoulder root and the wrist. Now before we go ahead and do anything, I want to name these IKs appropriately so that we are able to locate them. To do so, you go to Windows and then click on Outliner. And in the outliner, you'll see all of the assets that we are working with currently. So if you click on one of these, it will highlight um, the element in the viewport. So I'm going to select this one, the last one. I'm going to call it, let's call it left arm IK. I'm going to select this. I'm going to call it right arm IK. I'm going to select this and call it right leg IK and left leg IK. Okay, so we have 4 IKs. So now what we do is we create a set of control handles and constraints so that we can drive these IKs and animate the skeleton. So to create a control handle, go to curves and then create a click on the NURBS circle. Okay, this will create a circle. Just scale it up a little so that it's convenient to select. I'm going to kind of make it oblong. And to make sure that it's in the right location, what you do, if the move tool is not selected, make sure that you select the circle and then click on the move tool. And then holding down the V key, V as in vector, holding down the V key, drag it to the joint that you want it to snap to. And holding the V key will snap the circle to the joint. Okay, and let's call this right leg controller. Okay. Now before doing anything further, select the circle, then go to modify and click on freeze transformations. So this will zero out all of the XYZ values associated with that circle, which will make the current location of the circle its base location. And then say freeze transform. As soon as you freeze transform, you will notice that all of the values in the channel box are zeroed out. Do the same thing with the other leg. If you want to make a copy of this circle, press Shift D and then move the circle holding the V key to the other joint. As you can see, as soon as you move the circle, the X value changes in the channel box, and we don't want that. So what we have done before is what we do again. We go under modify and then freeze transform, and then as soon as we do it, translate X value will return to 0. Now what we do is we select the right leg IK. Actually, this is the left. So let's change the name. Left leg controller. So we want to drag the right leg IK into the right leg controller, holding the middle mouse button. So I'm holding the middle mouse button and then dragging it into the right leg controller. We'll do the same thing for the left leg IK, and we'll drag that into the left leg controller. So that if you select the controller now, it selects the IK and you can move the IK up and down, bending the knee. Okay. Now we do the same thing for the arms. I'm not going to I'm going to go fast now because you already know how things are done. I'm holding on the V key, dragging it up. I'm going to rotate this, right? So it's perpendicular to the parallel to the spine, and I'm going to name it right arm controller, and I'm going to modify freeze transforms. I'm going to shift D and move this holding the V key to the other end, and I'm going to call it left arm controller and modify freeze transformation. Now we'll drag the right arm IK under the right arm controller and left arm IK under the left arm controller. So now you should be able to move the arm side to side. And if I want to go back to the base location, all I have to do is translate X to 0. Okay. Now we need to have 3 more controllers. The first controller that I'm going to create is responsible for moving the whole rig, and we call it the super controller. So I'm going to move this down here and then move to the side so that it's about in the middle, and I'm going to call it super. I'm going to make, first of all, freeze transform, make a copy by pressing Ctrl or Shift D, and then move it to the root of the spine. Scale it down, modify freeze transform. I'm going to call it spine base. Now I'm going to make another copy, Shift D, hold the V key down, move it up, modify freeze transforms, and I'm going to call it mid spine. Okay. So now what we do is, first of all, we select the spine base, the controller, and then we select the spine root, that's the root of the entire skeleton. Then we go to constrain and open the options window for the parent constraint by clicking on this little square. In the options window, make sure that you click maintain offset and all is checked for both translate and rotate, and then say add. In a bit, we'll see what these constraints do. Next, we want to select the mid spine controller, select the joint, go to constraint, and now instead of creating a parent constraint, we are going to create an orient constraint. Make sure maintain offset is on, constraint axes all checked, and say add. So now if I rotate this control handle, it will bend the spine down the middle. With orient constraint, you cannot translate the control handle, you can only rotate it. With parent constraint, I can rotate the joints or I can translate them side to side. Okay. Next, what we do is we middle mouse click, drag our mid spine into the spine base. So middle mouse click pressed, drag it into the spine base, and then drag the spine base with the middle mouse button into the super controller. And then all of these other control handles that we have created, they go directly into the super controller. Middle mouse click inside. So now if I select the supercontroller, you notice that because the supercontroller is the highest node, or the other controllers are nested inside the supercontroller, it selects all of the controllers, and now you can move the entire rig back and forth. If you select the legs, you can move them independently. If you select the spine base, you can make the rig bend in its knees. You can also rotate the rig side to side. If you want to bend the rig down the middle, you can do so by selecting the mid spine controller. If you want to animate the arms, you can move the arms down as you want and position them the way you want. If you don't like where the arms are right now, you can simply zero out. So select all of the fields in the channel box, press 0, and it will go back to its base location. Similarly, if you don't like this arm, select the first two fields, X and Y, press 0, and it will go back to its base location. So this is a quick overview of what rigging involves. There is a lot to rigging, and I haven't gone through even 2% of what rigging involves. But as we go on, we'll look into different types of constraints, we'll look into how to animate faces, we'll look into adding influence points for facial animations, so on and so forth. But that's down the pipeline. For now, this should give you a good overview of what rigging is all about.